Good afternoon. We'd like to welcome everyone to the Mesa City Council meeting for May the 20th. We are going to begin our meeting with an invocation offered by Dr. Brooke Insignoma. I'm sorry, Pastor, you told me how to say your name and I butchered it anyway. So please stand for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
I invite us all into a space of prayer, reflection, or centering as you are comfortable. Gracious God, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to live in community and serve in leadership. May these council chambers be a place of character and conviction, of listening to understand, of speaking with clarity and restraint. As these honorable members and those gathered here turn to the business of the evening, renew our compassion for the whole human family and strengthen our resolve to help make Mesa a place where all are embraced as neighbors and able to pursue a good life. As the budget surfaces this evening, keep us mindful that budgets are moral documents with a unique ability to support abundant life for humankind, to protect creation and the natural spaces and resources we share, and to enact justice as we look after the most vulnerable of our community. May your light rest in the hearts and lives of these public servants, and may they receive the support, encouragement, and accountability that enable them to do their best for others. May light and love dwell in all gathered in this place and through our community. In the name of all that is good, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The first item on our agenda today is a proclamation, and this is a very exciting proclamation. The Benedictine University men's volleyball team competed at the national championships in Des Moines, Iowa, the week of April 15th through the 20th. We're proud to say they finished the tournament undefeated, and they are the first team to win a national championship in the history of Benedictine University. Also, I should note the first volleyball team from the state of Arizona to win a national championship. So today I am proud to proclaim May the 20th as Benedictine University Mesa Men's Volleyball Championship Day in Mesa, Arizona. So here to accept the proclamation is Benedictine University Executive Vice President Kevin Breckling and head coach Ray Lewis and several members of the team. We'd invite them to come forward to the podium for the photograph. And actually, yes, please, okay, the two of you, that's great. Well, let's go down and take a photo. But maybe before that, please give us some of your thoughts about this great accomplishment for Benedictine and Mesa.
It's been an outstanding experience for us. Our university is only 5 years old. I'm going into year 6 in Mesa. And so they started athletics about 4 years ago, adding a men's volleyball program. So to be able to accomplish a national championship and represent Mesa on a national stage has been incredible.
Well, we're very proud of you. We'll come down for the photo now, if that's all right. Council. I'm going to get you a setter.
Libero, actually.
Well, we're going to also smile. Up in. Okay. There is an actual proclamation, and I'm not sure where it is right now. Okay, we'll make sure we get it to you. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is to consider the consent agenda. So I'd invite Mr. Kevin Christopher forward to read the consent agenda. I do note that in addition to the items that were taken off the consent agenda in our study session, we do have a blue card wishing to speak on agenda item 5K, so we'd like to remove that from the consent agenda as well. Any other requests to speak on an item on the consent agenda?
No, Mayor, I believe there's 2 or 3 cards for.
Okay, thank you. I'll make sure I've got all of them. No item other than 5K, though. Okay, thank you very much. Please proceed.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. These are the items on the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk will be considered as a group by the City Council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless a council member or citizen requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item. If a citizen wants an item removed, a blue card must be completed and given to the city clerk prior to the council's vote on the consent agenda. Item 2, approval of minutes of previous meetings as written. Item 3A, act on liquor license application for Square One Incorporated, one-day event, May 30th, 922 South Country Club Drive. Item 3B, act on liquor license application for Carrabba's Italian Grill, 1740 South Clearview Avenue. Item 3C, act on liquor license application for Hava Java, 2849 North Power Road. Item 3D, act on liquor license application for Spice Spirit, 1955 West Main Street. Item 4A, act on extension and dollar limit increase to the term contract for the Safety Show Program for the Human Resources Department. Item 4B, act on contract to purchase a customer queue management system as requested by the Development Services Department. Item 4C, act on contract to purchase Falcon District branding signage as requested by the Economic Development Department. This purchase is funded by the Local Streets Fund. Item 4D, act on 3-year term contract with 2 years of renewal options for catering and concession services for the Mesa Convention Center as requested by the Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities Department. Item 4E, act on 1-year renewal with a 1-year renewal option to the term contract for polyurethane roof foam and coating for citywide facilities and projects as requested by the Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities Department. Item 4F, act on 3-year term contract with 2 years of renewal options for playground and parks equipment for the Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities Department. Item 4G, act on contract to purchase a compressor for the Police Department. Item 4H, act on 1-year renewal with a 1-year renewal option to the term contract for Glock handguns for the Police Department. Item 4I, act on contract to purchase 9 light-duty pickup trucks, 7 replacements, 2 additions for various city departments as requested by the Fleet Services Department. Item 4J, act on 1-year term contract with a 1-year renewal option for refrigerated liquid carbon dioxide for the Signal Butte Water Treatment Plant as requested by the Water Resources Department. Item 4K, act on 1-year renewal with a 1-year renewal option to the term contract for sludge screen machine rental for the Water Resources Department. Item 4L, act on 3-year term contract with 2 years of renewal options for water testing reagents and supplies for the Water Resources Department. Item 4M, act on 3-year term contract with 2 years of renewal options for analytical equipment and supplies for the Water Resources Department. Item 4N, act on 1-year renewal with a 1-year renewal option to the term contract for bronze water service valves, fittings, fire hydrants, and repair parts for the Materials and Supply Warehouse for the Water Resources Department. Item 4O, act on 1-year term contract with 2 years of renewal options for 2 master job order contracts for small project landscape construction services. Item 4P, act on 1-year term contract with 2 years of renewal options for 2 master job order contracts for general building construction services. Item 4Q, act on contract to purchase coated steel pipe for pipe installation projects for the Energy Resources Department. This purchase is funded by authorized 2014 gas bonds. Item 4R, act on ratification of the emergency purchase of 5 chassis for medical response and transport units for the Mesa Fire and Medical Department. Item 5A, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by A.T. Still University's Arizona School of Dentistry and Oral Health to the Tohono O'odham Nation and authorizing the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 5B, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by Arizona Museum of Natural History Foundation to the Tohono O'odham Nation and authorizing the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 5C, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by Jean Lewis Boxing Club to the Tohono O'odham Nation and authorizing the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 5D, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by Junior Achievement of Arizona to the Tohono O'odham Nation and authorizing the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 5E, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by Paz de Cristo to the Tohono O'odham Nation and authorizing the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 5F, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by Save the Family Foundation of Arizona to the Tohono O'odham Nation and authorizing the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 5G, act on a resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by the Mesa Arts Center to the Tohono O'odham Nation and authorizing the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds. The funds will be used for the Mesa Contemporary Art Museum's Summer 2020 exhibition, Inalienable. Item 5H, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by the Mesa Fire and Medical Department to the Tohono O'odham Nation and authorizing the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds. The funds will be used to replace the department's outdated thermal imaging camera equipment with improved equipment. Item 5I, act on resolution extinguishing a public utilities easement at 3323 North Chestnut to accommodate construction of an attached garage. This was requested by the property owner. Item 5J, act on resolution regarding ZON 19-00063 within the 10,200 and 10,300 blocks of East Pecos Road, located on the south side of Pecos Road, east of the Crisman Road alignment. Site plan review to allow for development of an industrial facility. Item 5K has been removed from the consent agenda. Item 6A, introduction of ordinance regarding ANX 19-00066, annexing property located north of University Drive and west of Ellsworth Road and adopting comparable zoning. Item 6B, introduction of ordinance regarding ZON 19-00067 within the 400 to 600 blocks of North Ellsworth Road, west side, and within the 9,000 to 9,200 blocks of East Decatur Road, south side. This is located north of University Drive on the west side of Ellsworth Road. Rezoned and site plan review to allow for development of a multi-residential use. Item 7A, this item is for continuance to the June 3rd, 2019 City Council meeting. It involves ZON 18-00066 for property located at the northwest corner of Alma School Road and Southern Avenue. Rezoned and site plan review to allow for development of residential and commercial uses. Item 7B, act on ordinance amending sections 10-4-3 through 10-4-6 of the Mesa City Code to modify the boundaries of the current 35 miles per hour speed limit on Main Street from Mesa Drive to Gilbert Road, to rescind the current 40 miles per hour speed limit on Main Street from a point 53 feet west of South Allen Street to a point 211 feet east of Gilbert Road, and to correctly reflect existing boundaries of the current 45 and 30 miles per hour speed limits on Main Street between Centennial Way, Serine, and Gilbert Road as recommended by the Transportation Advisory Board. Item 8A, act on ordinance regarding ANX 18-00502, annexing property located north of Ray Road, east of Power Road. Item 8B, act on ordinance regarding ZON 18-00775 within the 4,900 to 5,200 blocks of South Power Road, located south of the 202 Santan Freeway on the east side of Power Road and north of Ray Road. This is a rezoned council use permit and site plan review to allow for a mixed use development. Item 9A, act on subdivision plat, Eastmark DU 34 North Phase 2 and 3, within the 9,800 through 9,900 blocks of East Point 22 Boulevard, north side, within the 9,400 through 9,700 blocks of East Warner Road, south side, within the 4,200 through 4,600 blocks of South Eastmark Parkway, west side, and within the 4,400 through 4,700 blocks of South Inspirion Parkway, south side, located north and east of Ellsworth and Ray Roads within the Eastmark community. Item 9B, act on subdivision plat, Mesa Germain Business Park, within the 7,200 through 7,300 blocks of South Ellsworth Road, west side, and within the 9,100 block of East Pecos Road, south side, located south and west of Ellsworth and Pecos Roads. Item 9C, act on subdivision plat map of dedication for Crisman Road extension within the 3,200 through 3,400 blocks of South Crisman Road, located north and east of Ellsworth and Elliott Roads. Item 9D, act on subdivision plat map of dedication for Elevate within the 8,900 block of East Germain Road, located west of Ellsworth Road on the north side of Germain Road. Item 9E, act on subdivision plat Aspire at Sun Valley Townhomes within the 7,500 block of East Billings Street, south side, and within the 100 to 200 block of North Sossman Road, west side, located on the west side of Sossman Road, north of Main Street. Item 9F, act on subdivision plat Eastmark Development Units 3-4 infrastructure for commercial parcels within the 9,200 through 9,700 blocks of the East Warner Road alignment, within the 4,200 through 4,700 blocks of the South Inspirion Parkway alignment, and within the 4,000 through 4,100 blocks of South Eastmark Parkway, located north and east of Ellsworth and Ray Roads, within the Eastmark community. Item 9G, act on subdivision plat Eastmark DU 34 Parcel 1 within the 9,500 through 9,800 blocks of East Point 22 Boulevard, north side, and within the 4,600 through 4,800 blocks of South Inspirion Parkway, west side. This is located north and east of Ellsworth and Ray Roads within the Eastmark community. Item 10A has been removed from the consent agenda. Mayor and council members, these are the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Christopher. We have a motion by Mr. Luna, seconded by Mr. Thompson, to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. The vote is unanimous in favor of adopting the consent agenda. The first item that's been removed from the consent agenda is agenda item 5K. Let me read that so we all know what we're talking about. This is zoning case, or case number 19-0518, approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into a purchase and sale agreement and escrow instructions for the sale of approximately 132 acres of real property located at the northwest corner of Recker and Thomas, and accepting the bid of $21,100,000 made by Desert Vista 101 LLC. I know this matter was the subject of a rather lengthy staff presentation and council discussion at our Thursday morning study session, so I don't know that it's necessary to repeat all of that, but we do have a couple of speakers that have requested to weigh in on this, so let's hear from them, and then council will consider what additional presentations or discussions we might need to have. First, we invite Mr. Verl Farnsworth forward. Mr. Farnsworth, you have 3 minutes.
Mayor and council, this whole situation began with the southwest corner of Recker and Thomas because of your insatiable desire that that corner be commercial. The overwhelming desire of the residents there is that that corner be residential. Prior to this little fiasco, 2 developers requested that the northwest corner be residential of Recker and Thomas. The city turned those plans down because of the safety factor in engaging Namotali next door. The property was then purchased by the city with park bonds. Though they were issued under general obligation bonds, I think you'll find an audit that will prove that they were actually park bonds in the process. You'll find that this has been a city park since the day that it was purchased. It has maybe lacked the amenities of other city parks, but it has been used continuously day by day for the last 21 years. To answer the statements that the park is an undervalued asset, this park has been the most efficiently operated park the city has ever owned. It has been enjoyed daily by the Mesa residents and fully appreciated just the way that it is. What other parks have been disposed of, or where are the attendance figures that the city keeps for park attendance? To correct the record, it wasn't Mesa, it wasn't Namotali who suggested the 600-foot barrier. It was the city of Mesa. I would like to see the engineering figures that deem this to be an acceptable safety setback from potential disaster. Is the new owner going to install and maintain the monitoring wells recommended by Namotali? Since the new owner will own all the property with the exception of the lift station, how will the citizens gain access to the proposed walking paths and hiking trails? Will the new HOA carry the liability and risk of injury to Mesa citizens not members of the new HOA? Who will provide the maintenance and the upkeep of the proposed joint use areas? What will be the hours of access? I ask these questions because I hear Mr. Blanford, for whom I have a great deal of respect, mention that he felt the city ought to maintain ownership of the 30-plus acres of buffer land. It seems to me that these items, and many others not yet answered, would indicate that this item ought to be headed for the trash bin. I conclude with just a short comment relating to the past couple of meetings. Your presentations still lack and confirm the lack of transparency being offered to citizens and the lack of accuracy of the facts.
Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. Take another sentence to wrap up if you'd like.
Just as a reminder, there has been no apology offered because of the $25.5 million appraisal that was not present and covered.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I'm due that apology. Thank you.
We'll comment on that. Next is Mark Gaspers. Mark. Welcome, Mark. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Mark Caspers from the Boeing Company. I just want to say thank you to the Development Services Department for meeting with us. We do appreciate their outreach and sitting down regarding this. We are still working through our process to understand the impact that it would be to our operations. Apologize, I wasn't here during study session, but I just want to clarify that while our flight operations are primarily west and north, there are times when it would be over the impacted area itself, so we would expect to meet with the developer to discuss that impact given the considerable noise impact of our operations and other airport users. Thank you again for all that you do for Boeing employees.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Question specifically
Yes.
as it pertains to Boeing. Would the appropriate time to, I'm assuming that would be during the zoning, right, not during the actual sale of the land, but when we go to rezone, it would be the appropriate time to discuss the issues that Boeing may have with the property. Is that correct, or is that something we should discuss tonight?
Well, my recollection from the meeting on Thursday is that we have now
discussed it
12 months, and there will absolutely be a lot of discussions with the developer and the stakeholders, including Boeing. So,
And the
correct me if I'm
irrigation.
wrong, I think Mr. Blandford, on his list of things to do will be to meet with Boeing, and then you will, and I see the representative for Mr. Blandford indicating that's the case as well. So we have up to a year and a half for these discussions to take place. And
Okay.
Correct.
Great.
And to answer Councilmember Whitaker's question, yes, there will be a tremendous amount of public outreach during the rezoning and the site planning process, which will happen over the next 12 to 18
I
months.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, what's your pleasure? There were a few issues that were raised by Mr. Farnsworth that I think absolutely were discussed on Thursday morning. We can go over the answers to those questions again. Mr. Brady, I believe Angelica has got a
Yeah,
like a
so
60-slide
well, yeah,
presentation.
I
we
don't
can
know if
go.
you want that again. If there's specific areas you want us to cover, one of the items that there was a statement here that I wanted to be clear. I think we're looking about NAMO Tally's request. We actually have the letter, so I don't know if it in the letter. Angelica, do you have the letter? Do you have? What did she say?
Okay, so yeah, why don't we, there is a suggestion that there be a 600-foot buffer between the industrial property to the north and the residential property. I guess Angelica, can you comment on the adequacy and the history of that buffer?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. We did receive a letter from representatives from NAMO indicating that they are requesting a 600-foot buffer along that northern property line. We have that letter on file. We do have all of the documents related to this project posted on the city's website. It's mesaaz.gov/land auction. And we do have that there. I can pull a copy if you'd like.
I just want to confirm that we did have a letter from them requesting the 600-foot buffer. I think it was suggested maybe
Mr.
that's
Brady, we
something
do have a letter.
we came up with that, but certainly that was something they endorsed in the letter.
Yes.
Right. And so speaking, I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson.
I wasn't here Thursday for the presentation, but I understand that Mr. Blandford is amicable to working with the community to build parks interior, and they would be considered city parks, or would that be private parks?
So, yeah, Mayor, Councilman Thompson, I think what it was a very kind of just short, brief conversation, but he did commit to making available some of the areas for trails, is what I remember. And I think if those trails are then funded by the city for the improvements and access, they would be public access. They would be funded by the city. If they're funded by the city, they're going to be for public access. And I think that's what we have to work with the developer on, is that idea of how we provide public access through this area, while at the same time allowing the developer to have, the private owners to have their space also. But we think there's a lot of opportunities out here, especially with that 600-foot buffer. We also, there's been some indications that Mr. Blandford indicated, conversations with Red Mountain about the possibility also doing improvements at their park, which you can see as part of kind of a little notch in this area. So again, we're open to those ideas. And then what we also suggested, Councilmember Thompson, is that the original idea from Mr. Luster as the city manager was this is to be a district park. We didn't feel like that this neighborhood would really support ball fields, soccer fields, lights, which is what was in the original plan. But the passive park uses would be, we would work with Mr. Blanford to incorporate those into this plan or into the design as we move along. But we've talked to Councilmember Luna about providing those types of park amenities outside of this area, but in that district, whether it's Red Mountain or Geometry. So we're looking at providing those more active park amenities in those areas. So trying to kind of keep with the idea that was originally proposed, yet at the same time it was rejected by the voters twice, but we're trying to meet halfway here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Luna.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Thank you, Angelica, for that wonderful presentation. I have some colleagues, friends, former friends from Mesa Public Schools here. I just got a text from a resident. This isn't going to be an open process. You will be able to come in and weigh in your concerns to Mr. Blanford. We have a year, we have a year and a half where you can have discussions, open discussions about how that property is going to be developed. We want to make sure that we continue and receive your input, how that's going to be developed. We talked about having the passive trails. We talked about having possibly an outlook. Certainly the park over there, over at Red Mountain Ranch, is going to have some improvements. And so I'm very happy that Mr. Blanford has agreed to that. He's going to be meeting with the Red Mountain Ranch Community HOA fairly soon to talk about some possibilities within that park. And one of the concepts that I was very pleased with was the whole concept of distributed park. Not only were we going to do park amenities there at the current location, but we're going to may have pickleball courts. We're looking at pickleball courts. Can identify a place specifically because then I might get into trouble. So I will say that that's one of our goals is to have a pickleball in District 5. Also, soccer fields are very important, and we're going to look at areas where we might be doing some additional soccer fields and certainly some passive and walkable trails throughout District 5. So those are the kind of discussions we're going to have. We have a year for sure, a year and a half if it takes longer, but I'm very happy with this situation. It's a win-win situation for Red Mountain Ranch residents as well as the community of Mesa and those that live in District 5. So I'm going to be supportive of this and allow Mr. Blanford to proceed forward and move forward on this.
Thank you. Let me say amen to what Mr. Thompson, or I'm sorry, Mr. Luna said and Mr. Thompson a moment earlier. If you are a Red Mountain Ranch resident and you are concerned about this piece of property, I think it's important that you review the videotape of our Thursday morning study session. So please go to mesachannel11.com, pull up the May 16th council study session. You can review it in detail. It's a very lengthy presentation. I can't think of any issues that weren't discussed fairly rigorously during that discussion last Thursday. So my takeaway from it is we are at the beginning of this process, and there is still, as Mr. Farnsworth, you're correct, there's a lot of unanswered questions here. And we're not trying to prejudge what the answers to those questions might be, but we're going to be very engaged over the next year to year and a half. And the stated goal here is for a win-win situation, for us to get the amenities that the Red Mountain Ranch residents are looking for in a way that's not disruptive to their community, and at the same time accomplish some of these other great goals that we have for that property. Angelica.
Mayor, Council, just to give you a little more information, we do plan on updating the land auction website tomorrow morning. We'll go ahead and add Thursday's presentation to the website. A lot of the residents in the area are familiar with that website, so we'll go ahead and place it there so that they can find that presentation.
Thank you. And there will be multiple additional public meetings with zoning hearings, planning meetings, P&Z meetings, city council meetings. So there will be, no one will feel like they didn't get a chance to weigh in on any of the issues that are on the table in front of us. So I believe
I got one.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify from a legal perspective and something else that we discussed in Thursday that today we're just voting on auctioning off the land, right? There is no covenants that say that there must be parks or trails or anything like that. And I guess I just ask for clarification on that. I mean, there's no sense in us discussing that stuff tonight. Yeah. There's no covenants, so there's...
Mayor, Councilmember Whitaker, yes, to answer that, your action today is to accept the bid of $21,100,000 and also authorize the city manager to execute the purchase and sale agreement and escrow instructions. What that action does is it starts the 12-month feasibility period that Mr. Blanford has to develop a plan to file a application for a minor general plan amendment, file an application for rezoning, and then also start processing their subdivision plats. As part of all of those processes, which will have to be heard before the Planning and Zoning Board and before City Council, before action is taken on those items, Mr. Blanford will also need to work with the residents of Red Mountain Ranch to determine what amenities they are seeking for in their area. He will also have to develop a plan proposing development of the property. At this time, we have not seen that, but that's what the 12-month feasibility period is for. After that 12-month feasibility period expires, the escrow amount will go hard and would be non-refundable. So he has a time period under which he needs to present a development plan that will then go through the public hearing process for the entitlements.
And Jill, I appreciate the clarification. I just want to confirm one thing. So in the 12-month period, if council didn't agree to what was being proposed, would the land then revert to ownership of the city of Mesa?
Mayor, Councilmember Whitaker, the city will not turn over the land until the entitlements have been approved.
Okay.
Okay,
great.
You're just approving the contract, the terms, but not there's no closing here.
Thank you.
That might be a little confusing. When we say we're accepting the bid, that doesn't mean we're transferring the property. The property is transferred only if there's a happy ending to all the zoning and entitlements that needs to happen over the next year and a half.
That is correct, Mayor. It was very important for the city not to actually turn over the land until we know exactly how it will be developed.
Okay. Thank you. Council, any additional questions on this item? I see Mr. Freeman has made a motion, seconded by Mr. Luna. Please cast your vote. Thank you. The vote's unanimous to proceed with that item. The next item off of our consent agenda is item 11. That is a resolution adopting a pension funding policy and accepting the employer's share of assets and liabilities under the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System as required by ARS 38-863.01. Council, is there discussion on this item? Yes.
I request this to be taken off because I have a concern with the cost difference depending if we fund our unfunded liability to $600 million over a 25-year period or a 20-year period. And I requested from staff the different costs associated to paying it off in a 20-year period or a 25-year period. I was indicated that that data doesn't exist, and that's why I'll be opposing this measure.
Okay. Thank you. I'll be voting in favor of this. Just to clarify, the state legislature passed a new law this year that requires that cities and towns with PSPRS plans annually adopt a policy addressing the unfunded liability issue. So we are not adopting a new policy today. It was actually more than a year ago that we adopted a policy and opted for a 30-year, actually a 25-year payoff plan. So we're not voting today to change any policy or to reconsider anything that we've already done. We're just doing this to comply with a new state law that requires that we annually have this as an agenda item. For the same reasons I approved our plan to pay this off in 25 years a year or two ago when we first adopted it, I'm in support of this plan as well. I see that Mr. Luna has made a motion and seconded by Mr. Heredia. Any additional council discussion on this item? If not, please vote. The vote is 6 in favor with Mr. Whitaker voting nay. So that item passes. The next item on our agenda is item 12.
Mayor?
Yes,
if
I'm
we
sorry.
we skipped 10A. That was pulled also off the
Oh, I
consent.
apologize. Did I skip an item? 10A, thank you. Oh, you're right, I apologize. Thank you. We'll now consider agenda item 10A. This is to take an action on the tentative adoption of the following proposed fiscal year 19-20 budget. And agenda item 10A is to take action on the tentative adoption of the proposed fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. Is there council discussion on this item? Okay, there's a motion that's been made by Mr. Freeman, seconded by Mr. Luna. If there's no discussion, please vote. Vote is 6 in favor with Mr. Whitaker voting no. Thank you. The next agenda item then is item 12, which is, this item is a public hearing and a resolution for the annual assessments for the Mesa Town Center Improvement District. The assessments do not include any rate increases compared to previous assessments. Let's begin with the hearing. I hereby declare the public hearing open. Ms. Mickelson, has anyone requested to speak on this item? Thank you. Do any council members wish to address this item? Thank you. I'd then declare the public hearing closed. Item 12B is the resolution approving of the 2019 district assessments for the Mesa Town Center Improvement District. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Seconded by Mr. Luna. Please cast your vote. The vote is unanimous in favor of approval. Thank you. The next item off of the consent agenda is item 13. This item is a public hearing and resolution relating to the 5-year capital improvement program. I declare the public hearing open. Ms. Mickelson, has anyone requested to speak on this item? Thank you. Any council members wish to address this item? Mr. Whitaker.
I just have a comment. I request that this be pulled off consent. My concern is that over the next 5 years, staff has identified that we need $1.8 billion for capital improvements, of which we only have $343 million. $405 million that's already been approved by the voters. This shortfall of $1 billion to me is an unacceptable number, so I don't believe we should be siphoning money out of our enterprise fund until we start using some of that cash to pay towards some of these capital expenditures.
Thank you. I'll address that comment. I think maybe 15, 20 minutes ago, we had this discussion downstairs, and staff, correct me if I'm wrong, the capital improvement program is really a list of all of the projects that have been identified by all of the city departments that they would, their wish list, more or less. It's not identified as these projects are going to be built, but any project, if it is going to be built over the next 5 years, needs to make its way onto this list.
Yeah, this is a pattern we have too. It's hard to speak to this because it's just not, I mean, it's just like when we did our general obligation bonds, we had $400 million worth of requests or more. We didn't fund all of those. We pared it down significantly. This is the same idea. This is the Imagine Mesa utilities, effort where they come and say, here's all the things we'd love to do. Here's all the plan improvements and expansions. We've never funded this number 100%. So to suggest it's a gap or somehow that we're falling behind is not an accurate statement. That's coming from the CEO of this city who's been here for more than a decade, and where we have made a commitment to these utilities unlike any other time in Mesa's history. So over the last 3 years, we've committed over $100 million in capital improvements to the utilities. That's $300 million over the last 3 years. The prior 3 years before that, we only invested $150 million over the same period of time. We are investing in the utilities unlike any other time in the history of Mesa. We look forward, as we've mentioned before, to meeting with the council to go through this list and create a prioritization and a sensitivity analysis to the impacts of rates and as far as our ability to actually construct this amount of projects is we're limited in what we can do. The construction market is limited. We wouldn't even be able to go get enough contractors to do this much work. It just doesn't exist even today. We have a hard time getting contractors to do our work. So we will come back to you with a prioritization of the highest priorities of projects. We'll tell you what we think the limits should be and the impacts it will have on the budget out into the future. This is just a planning document that's required to us just to kind of show you all of the projects that may be considered, but certainly will not be the final list that we'll present to council to actually be funded over the next 5 years.
Thank you. Mr. Heredia.
Yeah, real quick, Mr. Smith, did you mention downstairs that within our charter, it is a practice that we list all items in order to have those discussions at a later date so that then we can narrow down, paraphrasing here, but narrow down the list of applicable projects moving forward. Is that?
That's a fair paraphrasing of what I said downstairs.
Perfect, thank you.
I think when you read the charter to us, you said all items proposed for the charter have to be identified. So again, I think it's important to know this is a list of all items that are proposed. For these items to actually progress to the point of being constructed, they will be considered individually and voted on individually. So for those reasons, I will support moving forward. Mr. Luna has made a motion, seconded by Mr. Heredia. Council, any additional discussion on this item? If not, please cast your vote. The vote is 6 in favor, with Mr. Whitaker voting nay. This next item for our consideration, that concludes all of the items off of our consent agenda. Am I correct, staff? Okay. The next item is items from citizens present. We have a little bit of a predicament today, as this is item 14. We have, our agenda says that under agenda item 14, items from citizens present, maximum of 3 speakers for 3 minutes per speaker. We have about 20 people that have filed cards to speak today, so we're not going to be able to hear from everyone who has come to speak, so I'm sorry about that. What I have done is I picked 4 cards, and I think these were individuals that I believe are the first ones to come here today. So we will be hearing from Frank Aubert regarding homeless problems, from Marianne Mendoza regarding community safety, and from Otto Schill representing the Mesa Chamber of Commerce, and Jose Luis Amaya representing the East Valley Alliance of Pastors. But I do want to, I'm going to read into the record everyone who has filed a card so that we can acknowledge that you're here and you requested to speak. And hopefully you'll come back to our next meeting and we'll be able to hear from you. We have a card from Marcelo Valenzuela from the Mesa Church of Christ wanting to speak regarding Chief Batista. A card from Elizabeth Cruz from the Love United Church of Alliance, a Hispanic pastor speaking about Chief Batista. Pastor Albert Bolden Jr. On the topic of the chief. Yolanda Bolden on the topic of Chief Batista. Pastor Magdalena Schwartz from the Alliance of Christian Leaders of the East Valley. Topic not identified. Pastor Juan Brown, police chief support for Chief Batista. Mary Jo McGee, subject not identified. Armel E. Thomas from the regarding the police union of vote of no confidence. Minister R. Alephis from the New Vision Christian Fellowship, subject not identified. Reverend Ozetta Kirby, subject not identified, but that's regarding the chief. Is that right? Thank you. Love United Church in support of Chief Batista. Mohammed El Sharkaway, no topic identified. Reverend Helen Hunter, also no topic identified. Here to speak in support of the chief. Bishop George McCree is here in support of Police Chief Batista. I'm sorry? Oh, okay, thank you. Verl Farnsworth would like to speak about Recker and Thomas. I think we already got that covered. Kiana Marie Sears regarding the chief, and Roy Tatum regarding the chief. So thank you for being here. I'm sorry that we don't get to hear from you, but we're going to bend the rules just a little bit and hear from 4 instead of 3. And I think hopefully this will be representative of some of the opinions that are here today.
I have a question, John, if I may.
Yes.
Are we hearing from one speaker that's, I mean, it sounds like there's multiple subjects. Is there like one pro and one con on each one that we're hearing from? I just would hate for us to let one person speak in favor of something but not give an opposing right. I'm just suggesting, you know.
Yes, that you raise a good point. I can't read the minds of the people that have filed these cards. Some of them indicated they were here in support of or the chief. The rest, I'm not sure what their intent is, so I'm not going to guess what it is. We did have an individual who's here on a not related to the chief issue that was anxious to be heard, and I think he was actually one of the first cards that was submitted. So we're going to hear from him. I believe we have a difference of opinion on the cards that I've selected. 2 of the cards are from individuals that represent large large organizations. For example, the Mesa Chamber of Commerce and the East Valley Alliance of Pastors. So I thought that would be somewhat representative of multiple opinions. So, and again, I'm sure, please come to our next meeting. Please get at the front of the line, and we hope to hear, but we'll take advantage of this agenda item as much as we can. But again, the purpose of this meeting is not, it's not a public hearing on, it's not an open mic night. but we do put it in at the end of the meeting so that we can, to the extent possible, hear from the public. So, having said that, I'm sure not everyone is pleased with the way that we're doing this, but that just wasn't going to happen tonight. First, we will hear from Mr. Frank Aubert. Mr. Aubert, please come forward. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. I'm Frank Aubert. I live on Southern Avenue, 6001 East Southern Avenue, which is right across the street from Leisure World, on just the south side of Southern, if you're all familiar. We have a homeless problem that just seems to be growing exponentially. There's grocery carts all over. They live in a little canal just under Southern, just on the south side of the Southern, if you're familiar at all. Anyway, they broke into our mailboxes. We're in a small Park Lakes community. They broke into our mailbox.
What was the other cross street, Southern and what?
Southern and Leisure World Boulevard, which is in between Higley and Power.
Okay, thank you.
A little closer to Higley. Okay, we have a small homeowner association there. They hop over the fence, broke into our post office boxes. We're a small HOA, so to replace them is going to be $8,000. For us, that's a considerable amount. And, you know, the blankets, they're laying around, garbage all over the place. And if you notice on the Power and Southern major intersection, there's homeless sleeping in the bus stop there. They're there on every corner, almost every day. And our little community there, Superstition Springs area, is a real nice community, and it seems to be going downhill rapidly. I was wondering, I thought I saw something on the news about, I don't know if it's just Phoenix or Mesa, where they could clean out those ditches and areas, and that would solve our problem almost immediately. And I guess they're doing that for the fire protection in that area. I'd just like you guys to be aware of that, and maybe we can get some attention in that area.
So, Mayor, Council, good luck. This is great timing. You've got the police chief and some of his staff here. So maybe right after, I'll have them just visit with you out here, and they can talk to you about getting some resources out there to help you out.
That would be wonderful.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Robert. And I'm sorry, just so everyone here knows, because the items that are being brought forward by these speakers aren't on our agenda, we are legally prohibited from engaging in discussion on these items. So we can't directly address these items, but hopefully at some point in the future they'll be on our agenda, and we can, or feel free to reach out to us individually before that time. Next, we'll hear from Mary Ann Mendoza. Welcome, Ms. Mendoza. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here as a Mesa citizen. I'm here on my own fruition. I'm concerned by what's happening within our community. I'm concerned not only for the safety of my fellow Mesa citizens, but also for the Mesa police officers who do protect us, the men and women who put their uniform on every day and go to work. It's becoming more and more of a scary world that we live in, and the last thing that I want is an officer who's responding to a call from me to question the action he's going to take because he's afraid of, he or she is afraid of punishment or something that will happen to them. You're all elected officials, and your first and primary concern should be the citizens of Mesa, and most definitely our police officers in Mesa. This isn't a popularity contest. This isn't about who likes who better, but when you've got a collective group as large, I mean, I saw the survey and 75% no confidence in our chief. This concerns me as a citizen. This should concern you as a city council, that our police officers do not have confidence in our chief. And we have got to unite, and we have got to come together. Mesa Police Department was regarded as one of the most respected police departments several years ago. And it's been sad to me to see how it's deteriorated and what the public opinion is of our police officers. And I pray every night as I go to bed for the safety of them, and I hope that you will really take into consideration what these officers are saying in this vote. And like I said, this isn't about hurting feelings. This isn't about a popularity contest. We've got to be serious, and we have to be real about what's happening in our community. And we have to make the decisions that are best for everybody, especially our law enforcement officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mendoza. Otto Schill. Otto is representing the Mesa Chamber of Commerce.
Mayor Giles, members of the council, thank you for visiting with us for a few minutes. The executive committee of the board of the Mesa Chamber has asked me to come and express their support for our police chief. We are particularly concerned with moderation in use of force. We also are very appreciative of the job that our officers do every day, and we appreciate them. We are concerned that some of the messaging and some of the discussion surrounding events over the last couple of years have led to some rancor, and that's of serious concern to us. To that end, we've had several meetings with the chief and the police department management. We've invited more of those, and we would extend the same invitation to the officers union. We think we need to turn the notch down a little bit on some of the discussions. Citizens need to feel safe. At the same time, officers also need to be safe. And we think the current political environment is difficult to arrive at a solution. But in any event, we are supportive of the chief and policies that are moderate towards physical enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schill. Jose Luis Amaya, pastor, representing the East Valley Alliance of Pastors.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to all of you, the members of the council. Time is short, we know that, and I'm part of the East Valley Pastors with Sister Magdalena, pastor of the church too, and I'm here in Mesa for about 19 years, and I have seen growth of the city and changes. But I haven't, for the last years, we always had good communications with all the chief of the departments, and every one of them has been trying to do the best they can. And Ramon Batista is not the exception. And my opinion, which is my own opinion, I think we have seen it improved in different ways. And, you know, the crime, I think, is always going to be somewhere, somehow, percentage. But I think at this point, we can see it's low. I can see it in the families of the church that I had comments for so long. Now they feel really confident too with the way the police is working. We see stuff on the TV. It's not only locally. This is nationwide. It's going to keep happening. What we need to do is support them, help them. You know, community means communion. So a situation like this is really hard to make decisions, but I think that he needs support, he needs help and comprehension. And we're willing to keep going the same we've been doing, working together as a community, as a churches, to help the community. And I think he's not the exception. To me, he's doing what he can do. He's can do better, but he needs comprehension, support, communication to keep it going better for the community. Thank you again. And hopefully we can be talking, I think that we need to do. But as far as him, we will have meetings, and it's been really good, the communication. Just one more second. It was amazed me when I met him for the first time, the way he talked to me about his vision on the city to work with the youth and a lot of things that also we know he's been doing. So we have to look at also not only the negative stuff, but also the positive and the impact on the city, because what he's trying to do for the last 2 years. Thank you again.
Thank you, Pastor Maya.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, that's all the time we have for tonight. Again, thank you to everyone who came. We appreciate that very much. Hopefully we'll get to hear from more of you at a later meeting. Council, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.